As everyone knows, the Cuphead Show is based on the popular video game, where the bosses are known for their power. We've already ranked the game characters from weakest to most powerful over on our gaming channel 1UP Binge. But now, it's time to see which characters from the Cuphead Show are truly the strongest.
It's not a baby! It's evil.
I'm Kyle with Wicked Binge, and this is the Cuphead Show characters weak to powerful. First off, the rules. To make this list, we're looking at a mixture of physical strength, mental strength, and even status or popularity. Obviously, not all characters have the same amount of screen time, so how much we know about them will vary, but we'll try not to let that negatively affect the list. Also, a quick note. Since this is only based on Drop 1, things might change in Season 2, so we may revisit this in the near future. As usual, we'll be starting with the weakest character and working our way up to the most powerful. These characters are mostly powerless, and would need a lot of help in a dangerous situation. Starting with our weakest character, we have Doris. While she definitely has a sharp tongue and tough attitude, she's most likely all bark and no bite. Pun intended. Not only that, but based on how small she is, she probably wouldn't fare well in a fight. Moving on to Stickler. While yes, he does work for the devil, and to give him credit, he is smart, but it's clear that he's not meant for battle. His job as an auditor means he only keeps track of souls. He doesn't actually go out and collect them himself, so he probably doesn't have any physical strength.
I will not apologize for doing my job.
Plus, he isn't liked by his coworkers nor the devil, and is very easily pushed around. Following him is Henchman. Like Stickler, he does work for the devil, but is much more popular. On top of that, he's usually the one to come up with ideas to cheer the devil up. Ideas that usually cause destruction. Besides status though, he doesn't have all too much power. He's on the shorter side, and as seen at the end of Roll the Dice, he is pretty clumsy. Next up are the ghosts, Jasper, Emma, and Duke. They are scary, but that's really all they have working for them. One could argue that it's because of their scaring that caused Cuphead and Mugman to fall to their supposed death. Therefore, they're not weak. But we have to disagree, because it wasn't intentional, and their reactions to seeing the quote-unquote dead bodies clearly state that they have no intent to cause harm or fight.
Oh, them poor little cubs.
Rounding out this category, we have Sherman. In Ribby and Croaks, we see that he has an axe, which he uses to cut meat. An axe is a weapon, and he's most likely skilled at wielding it, which would be helpful in a dangerous situation. But regardless, he doesn't seem to be a violent type. When Doris tells him his meat is running away, he never follows pursuit, nor seems very angry about it, so we'll keep him here in the weak category. Now we move on to our average category. These characters would fare much better in a dangerous situation, and would definitely be able to survive for a while. First off, we have the Root Pack. They are a big nuisance, and it's clear that they're popular in the vegetable world. Heck, the police weren't even able to shut their shindig down, which is what earns them their spot here. However, when actually faced with trouble, like Elder Kettle preparing to cook them in his infamous baby stew, they just run away, powerless to the situation. Moving on to Ribby and Croaks. As former boxers, they clearly have the skills required if they were thrown into a fight. Their fists are strong enough to punch holes through the wall of their ship, and they definitely appear to have strong endurance, given the fact that they punch each other constantly, not to mention chase the Cup brothers non-stop through the restaurant. The reason we don't rank them any higher though, is because they're arguing. They're so obsessed with being better than one another that they typically forget what's going on around them, or who they're supposed to be fighting. Next up we have Elder Kettle. He may be old, but he's got a lot of spunk. He used to be a war veteran and also seemed to be sporty back in the day, as we see in the many pictures he has hung up. He's even able to fight back, like he did to the Cup brothers when he thought they were hideous zombies. Unfortunately, his age has caught up to him, making him weaker. As seen in Root Pact and Dirt Nap, his bones aren't as strong as they used to be, and he often injures himself in some way, shape, or form. Though the fact he survived the traps he set up for the Cup brothers shows that he still has some fire in him. Moving on to Cuphead. Throughout the show, it's clear that he's a good runner. considering all the situations he has to run away from during the show. On top of this, the number of things that have happened to him, basically the entire montage during Dangerous Mugman, and falling from a tall building along with his brother in Ghosts Ain't Real. The fact that he survived all of that shows he has good endurance. On top of this, he definitely has a good amount of skills and confidence, including good hand-eye coordination, which he showcases when catching pancakes and playing skee-ball, which finally leads us to Mugman. Like Cuphead, since he's put in the same situations as him, he has the same levels of speed and endurance. But what places him just a step higher than Cuphead is his intelligence. He's the one who usually figures out the best ways to outsmart the devil, like the time he got the devil to destroy his own soul collecting machine, and the one putting the invisible sweater on the devil. On top of this, he's the one who knew about Quadratus.
We come seeking your wisely wisdom.
The only reason he isn't higher is because it's clear his worrying holds him back. If he had Cuphead's confidence, he would definitely be ranked in the next category. Finally, we arrive at our most powerful category. These characters' abilities are matched by nobody else in the show, and aren't characters you want to scrap with. First up, we have Pork Rind. As the runner of a black market, he clearly has a lot of power over his customers. We can see this by the transaction he makes with Jerry at the beginning of Dangerous Mugman, and just by seeing all the dangerous items he's acquired around his shop. He also has a hot temper, and has violent daydreams towards the Cup brothers, wanting to smash their heads with a giant hammer. Moving on to Quadratus. One could argue that because he's stationary, it means he doesn't have much power, but he is one of the wisest characters of the Inkwell Isles. He's able to give Cuphead and Mugman advice on how to protect themselves from the devil. Plus, he's the one who has the invisible yarn made from an extinct creature's wool that physically prevents the devil from even touching the person whose soul he wants to take. In other words, he harbors items and advice that are more powerful than the devil himself. So while physically he may be powerful, the amount of knowledge he harbors puts him much higher on our list. Just missing out of the top 3 is King Dice. He's very good at tricking people, hosting a game show that is purposefully easy to win and get more souls for the devil. On top of this, because of his talent and how charming he is, he's a celebrity and very popular.
Who's the host with the most?
Plus, while now he may no longer be Devil's number 1, he must have had a good amount of power to be able to even achieve that position in the first place. Why he's ranked higher is based on how, despite failing the Devil and losing his show, the fact is the Devil didn't destroy him, and we speculate the Devil might be saving him for something else. Taking the bronze medal of power is Baby Bottle. Now, it's quite a shock that a baby would be this high on a weak to powerful list, but Baby Bottle isn't a regular baby. He clearly has a lot of intelligence because he knows how to misbehave, lock doors, cut the wire of the telephone, and manipulate people with his adorableness. He's also very powerful considering all the heavy stuff he's able to throw at the Cup brothers, and he's able to rip Elder Kettle's mustache right off. Not to mention take down Elder Kettle, a war veteran, in a fight. The silver medal of powerful goes to Miss Chalice. As she says herself, she is nothing but trouble, and clearly is used to being put in tricky situations, and is always able to get herself out unscathed. She's a master of disguise, a charmer, and very talented. Also, just saying, tap dancing isn't an easy feat, and dancing and singing at the same time requires a lot of endurance, and she's able to do so easily. She's also a spirit or ghost of some sort, and while we haven't seen much of what she can actually do, we do know it helps her with her escapes, considering she can phase through walls in that form. She is powerful, but there is still one character who beats her on this list. Finally, the gold medal of power has to go to the Devil. As the ruler of the underworld, he has lots of powers used to help him wreak havoc. He has his trusted pitchfork, which he can shoot explosive fire out of. Plus, it also lets him fly. But without his pitchfork, he is still as powerful. He can transform into different creatures in disguises, can breathe fire, and of course, can just walk up to someone and rip their soul right out of them. He's also practically immortal. He's the ruler of the entire underworld after all, and if that's not power, we don't know what is. But let us know in the comments section who you think some of the more powerful Cuphead Show characters are. Make sure to hit that notification bell and binge our other Cuphead videos. But most importantly, stay wicked.